Motion in your step.
Motivation in your heart.
Hello, and welcome to today's Motion and Motivation podcast.
We've put together a study guide for everyone. If you need it, you can grab it from the video description. Ever wish you had like a set of tools, to handle life's curveballs with more grace and resilience?
Absolutely.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that's surprisingly relevant to modern life. We'll be exploring The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman, which offers a year's worth of wisdom from Stoic giants like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, it's fascinating how Stoicism, which originated in ancient Greece and flourished in Rome, still resonates with people today. It speaks to this deep human need to find peace and meaning even when things get tough.
Absolutely. The book really highlights how Stoicism isn't just about gritting your teeth and enduring hardship. It's about living a fulfilling life by focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, and reactions.
Yeah, it's a philosophy of action, not just passive acceptance.
And that's where it gets really powerful. Instead of getting swept away by external events, Stoicism empowers you to take charge of your inner world.
I love that.
I love how the book uses Seneca's analogy of the dog tied to a moving cart.
Oh, yeah.
The dog can choose to resist and get dragged along. Or accept the direction and walk alongside. It's such a vivid image of how we can approach challenges.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It reminds us that we always have a choice in how we respond. We may not be able to control the cart's direction, the external circumstances, but we can control whether we fight it or move with it. Think about how much energy do we waste resisting things we can't change?
So much. And that's where the Stoic idea of focusing on what's within our control comes in. It's about recognizing that our perceptions and judgments often cause us more suffering than the events themselves.
Exactly. Take anger, for example. The Stoics saw anger as a destructive force that clouded judgment and led to rash decisions. Seneca called it a stupefying emotion.
Wow.
It literally makes us less intelligent.
Really?
And this isn't just ancient wisdom. Modern psychology backs this up.
Interesting.
When we're angry, our brains are flooded with stress hormones, and our ability to think rationally goes out the window.
It's like that saying, don't make any decisions when you're angry, hungry, or tired.
Exactly. The Stoics were onto something centuries ago.
Wow.
They believed that by understanding our own nature, we could make better choices. And live more fulfilling lives. They saw virtue, things like justice, honesty, discipline, and courage, as the true path to happiness. And they weren't talking about some vague, abstract notion of happiness. They believed that by living virtuously, we naturally create a sense of inner peace and fulfillment that doesn't depend on external circumstances.
And that brings me to one of my favorite parts of the book. The idea of regularly examining your intentions. Seneca said, let all your efforts be directed to something, let it keep that end in view. He goes on to say that it's not activity that disturbs people, but false conceptions of things that drive them mad.
Wow.
It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle of daily life and lose sight of why we're doing what we're doing.
It's the classic going through the motions trap. We fall into routines, we chase external markers of success, and we forget to ask ourselves, is this actually aligned with what I value? Is this moving me closer to the life I want to live?
It's almost like hitting the reset button, right? Reminding yourself of your core values and making sure your actions are aligned with them.
Absolutely. And the book actually talks about this, the idea of rebooting and restarting. The Stoics understood that we're not perfect. We're going to slip up. We're going to drift away from our principles from time to time. The key is to recognize those moments and consciously choose to realign ourselves.
And that's where the beauty of the Daily Stoic comes in. It's like having a little Stoic mentor in your pocket, reminding you of these principles each day.
It's like a daily dose of perspective. And it doesn't sugarcoat things. The book dives right into those areas where we tend to struggle. Things like dealing with difficult people, managing our emotions, and navigating power dynamics.
Speaking of dealing with difficult people, I think everyone can relate to that.
Totally.
The Stoics had some surprisingly effective advice on this.
Yeah.
What stood out to you?
Well, their approach is pretty radical, even by today's standards.
Oh, really?
Marcus Aurelius suggests assuming that difficult people are acting out of ignorance.
Okay.
Rather than malice.
I love that it's such a powerful shift in perspective. Instead of getting hooked by their negativity, you try to understand where they're coming from.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we all have our own internal battles going on.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those battles manifest as difficult behavior.
Right.
It doesn't excuse the behavior, but it allows us to approach the situation with more compassion.
Right.
And understanding.
It's like that saying, hurt people hurt people.
Right. The Stoics were advocating for empathy and understanding centuries before it became a trendy concept.
Mm.
They believed that by extending grace to others, we ultimately freed ourselves from resentment and anger.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just about being nice to others.
Sure.
The Stoics were big on self-reflection.
Oh, yeah.
On honestly assessing your own strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Seneca talked about having a true self-estimate.
Okay.
He saw how easy it is to overestimate our abilities or downplay areas where we need to grow.
It's like that saying.
Yeah.
The first principle is that you must not fool yourself. And you are the easiest person to fool.
Exactly.
Self-deception can be a real roadblock to progress, can it?
Absolutely. The Stoics were all about radical self-awareness.
Okay.
They believed that to live a virtuous life, you have to be brutally honest with yourself about your flaws and biases.
Right.
Only then can you truly work on improving.
It's like they're saying sunlight is the best disinfectant. Shining a light on our shortcomings is the first step to overcoming them.
Exactly. And they didn't shy away from the big existential questions either.
Yeah.
The book has a whole section on how the Stoics viewed death.
Okay.
Now, you might think this would be a downer,
right?
But their perspective is actually quite empowering.
I know what you mean. They didn't see contemplating death as morbid or depressing.
Right.
Instead, they saw it as a way to clarify your priorities and appreciate the present moment.
It's like that saying, live each day as if it were your last.
Yeah.
But the Stoics gave it more depth.
Okay.
They saw it as a call to action, a reminder to make the most of your time.
Right.
And not waste it on things that ultimately don't matter.
There's that great quote from Marcus Aurelius. It's possible to start living again, see things anew as you once did. That is how to restart life.
Oh, I love that one.
It's a reminder that we always have the power to choose a different path, regardless of our past mistakes or setbacks.
I love that quote. It speaks to the Stoic belief that we are not defined by our past.
Yeah.
Every moment is a fresh start.
Right.
An opportunity to make choices that align with our values.
Mm-hmm.
And, this idea of restarting isn't just some abstract concept.
Yeah.
The book actually provides practical tips on how to do this in your daily life.
For example, give us some of those actionable takeaways.
Well, one technique they recommend is negative visualization.
Okay.
It sounds a bit counterintuitive, but it's about mentally rehearsing for potential setbacks.
Interesting.
By visualizing worst-case scenarios.
Right.
You can train your mind to respond with reason and composure rather than panic.
So it's like you're mentally preparing for challenges before they even happen.
Exactly. It's like building up a mental muscle for dealing with adversity.
Right.
And this ties into the Stoic idea of having a reverse clause.
Okay.
Think of it as a mental backup plan.
Got it.
Obstacles and unexpected events are inevitable in life.
Mm-hmm.
The reverse clause is about having a plan for when things don't go as expected.
Right.
It's about retaining control of your mind regardless of external circumstances.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Can you give us an example of what that looks like in practice?
Sure. Let's say you're working on a big project at work.
Okay.
And your computer crashes.
Oh, no.
Wiping out all your data.
Right.
A Stoic approach.
Okay.
Using a reverse clause might be, okay, I can't control that this happened.
Right.
But I can control my reaction.
Yeah.
I can choose to see this as a chance to start fresh, maybe even improve on my previous work.
Right.
It's about reframing the situation, seeing the opportunity in the obstacle.
It's like turning setbacks into opportunities for growth.
Exactly.
The Stoics really had a knack for flipping the script on conventional thinking, didn't they?
They did. And they didn't just talk about dealing with the negative stuff.
Okay.
They also had a lot to say about how we approach things like power and pleasure. They were wary of both.
Okay.
Seeing them as potential traps that could lead us astray from virtue.
That reminds me of something Epictetus said in the book.
Oh, yeah.
He warned that ceaseless desire for pleasure could actually lead to disappointment and lack of self-control.
Interesting.
It's almost counterintuitive.
It is.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. When we constantly chase pleasure, we become dependent on external things to make us happy.
Right.
We give up control of our own well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And when those sources of pleasure inevitably disappear,
Yeah.
we're left feeling empty and unfulfilled.
So it's not that the Stoics were against pleasure entirely.
Right.
It's about finding a healthy balance, right?
Exactly.
Enjoying pleasure without letting it rule your life.
It's about cultivating inner contentment and not relying on external things to bring you happiness.
Right.
And when it comes to power, they had a similar view.
Okay.
They saw how easily power could corrupt,
Yeah.
leading to arrogance and a disconnect from reality.
And yet they weren't suggesting that people should completely avoid positions of power.
No, not at all.
They believed in civic engagement and
Right.
working for the common good.
That's right. They saw virtue as something that was expressed through our actions, not just our thoughts.
Right.
And that's where the concept of preferred indifference comes in.
Okay, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of Stoicism.
Yeah.
Explain preferred indifference for those of us who aren't philosophy majors.
Think of it this way. There are things in life that are truly good, virtue, wisdom, justice.
Okay.
And there are things that are truly bad,
Right.
vice, ignorance, injustice.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's this middle ground of things that are neither good nor bad in themselves.
Okay.
Things like health, wealth, and reputation.
Mm-hmm.
The Stoics call these indifference.
So things that are kind of neutral, neither inherently good nor bad.
Right.
But they're not irrelevant, are they?
Right. They're part of life and we can't just ignore them.
Yeah.
And that's where preferred indifference come in.
Okay.
The Stoics believed that while these things aren't essential for happiness, they can make life easier and more enjoyable.
Right.
So we should prefer them,
Yeah.
but not become attached to them.
So it's like saying, it's nice to have good health, but my happiness doesn't depend on it. Or it's great to have financial security, but it doesn't define my worth as a person.
Exactly. It's about having a healthy detachment from things that are ultimately outside of our control.
Right.
The Stoics knew that fortune is fickle.
Yeah.
You can lose your wealth, your health, your reputation in an instant.
Oh, yeah.
If your happiness is tied to those things, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
That's a profound insight. It's like they're saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Right. Diversify your sources of happiness.
And speaking of diversification, one of the most fascinating aspects of Stoicism is how they broke down the path to living a virtuous life.
Okay.
Epictetus outlines 3 areas of training that are essential for developing inner strength and resilience.
Okay.
Desire, action, and assent.
Okay. Let's unpack those.
Right.
What did Epictetus mean by training in desire?
It's about carefully examining what you truly desire and what you should avoid.
Okay.
The Stoics believed that many of our desires are based on false beliefs.
Right.
Or societal pressures. They're not things that are truly good for us.
Right.
Or conducive to a fulfilling life.
So we're not talking about suppressing all desires.
Right.
It's about being more more conscious of what we're chasing and why.
Right. It's about aligning our desires with what is truly good and beneficial for us, rather than what society or others might dictate.
No.
And once we have a clear understanding of our desires, we can move on to the next area of training action.
And what does training and action look like? How do we put these carefully considered desires into practice?
It's about ensuring our actions are aligned with our values and reason. It's about acting with intention and purpose, rather than impulsively or out of habit.
Right.
This is where the Stoics really emphasize the importance of self-control and discipline.
So it's not enough to just have good intentions. You have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Exactly. And this leads us to the third area of training, assent.
Okay.
This one is crucial.
Okay, assent. It sounds a bit formal. Break that down for us. What kind of training are we talking about here?
Think of assent as like the gatekeeper of your mind.
Okay.
It's that moment when you decide whether to accept or reject a thought, a judgment, an impulse.
Right.
The Stoics believed that we have a choice.
Okay.
And how we respond to our initial impressions.
Yeah.
We don't have to be ruled by our knee-jerk reactions.
So it's about creating that space between stimulus and response. Yeah. Choosing a wise response rather than just reacting on autopilot.
It's about developing the mental muscle of discernment.
Right.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
Our brains are wired to react quickly, especially in situations perceived as threats.
Right.
But the Stoics believe that by training our minds, we could become more aware of our judgments and make more conscious choices about how we want to respond.
This all ties back to that central Stoic idea, focusing on what we can control, right?
Right.
We can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we react.
Exactly. And this brings us to one of the most profound and perhaps misunderstood aspects of Stoicism.
Yeah.
The idea of accepting what you can't control.
Right.
Now, this doesn't mean passively resigning yourself to whatever life throws at you.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the limits of your control and choosing to focus your energy where it matters most, on your own thoughts, actions, and reactions.
I think this is where a lot of people get tripped up.
Yeah.
They hear acceptance.
Right.
And they think, oh, so I should just give up and let life happen to me.
It's not about giving up. It's about choosing your battles wisely.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that fighting against reality is a recipe for frustration and suffering.
Right.
The Stoics weren't suggesting that we detach completely from the world or become emotionless robots.
Right.
Quite the opposite. They believed that by accepting what we can't control, we actually free ourselves to engage with the world more fully and effectively.
It's like that saying, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
That's a perfect way to put it. That's the essence of Stoic wisdom.
Right.
Knowing where to direct your energy, knowing when to accept and when to act.
Right.
And remember, acceptance isn't a one-time thing.
Okay.
It's an ongoing practice. We're constantly faced with situations that challenge our sense of control.
Right.
The key is to keep coming back to those core Stoic principles, to keep reminding ourselves of what truly matters.
It sounds like Stoicism offers a powerful framework for navigating not just the big dramatic moments in life, but also the everyday ups and downs, the little annoyances, the unexpected curveballs.
It does. And that's why I think the Daily Stoic is such a valuable resource.
Right.
It breaks down these complex philosophical ideas into bite-sized pieces that you can apply to your daily life. It's like having a little pep talk from a wise friend, reminding you to stay grounded, to focus on what you can control, and to approach challenges with courage and wisdom.
You know, one thing that really struck me about the book is that it emphasizes the importance of choosing your company wisely.
Yeah.
Epictetus has this great line, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best.
It's so true, isn't it?
Right.
The people we surround ourselves with have a profound impact on our thoughts, emotions, and actions. The Stoics understood this. They encouraged us to be mindful of the company we keep.
Right.
To seek out relationships that inspire us to be our best selves.
And on the flip side, to recognize when a relationship is draining our energy or holding us back.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to walk away from those relationships.
Right.
But sometimes it's necessary for our own well-being.
Absolutely. It's about setting healthy boundaries and prioritizing relationships that nourish your mind and soul.
Right.
And this idea of being intentional about our relationships extends to how we interact with the world around us.
Okay.
The Stoics believed that we have a duty to engage with society, to work for the common good, and to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
They weren't advocating for a hermit-like existence, were they?
No, not at all.
They believed in getting out there and making a difference.
Right. They saw virtue as something that was expressed through action, through engagement with the world. And they believed that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, could live a virtuous life.
That's a powerful message. It's like they're saying, you don't have to be a philosopher or a sage to live a life of meaning and purpose.
Right.
Stoicism is for everyone.
And that's why I think it's so relevant today. In a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, Stoicism offers a path to resilience, inner peace, and a life of meaning.
And that's what we've been exploring in this deep dive. How the principles of Stoicism, as presented in the Daily Stoic, can help us navigate the challenges of modern life.
Right.
With more grace, wisdom, and resilience.
It's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah.
And I think the key takeaway is that Stoicism isn't a passive set of beliefs. It's a call to action. It's an invitation to take ownership of your inner world, to cultivate virtue, and to live a life aligned with reason and nature.
And the beauty is, it's a journey you can start today. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we leave you with this question. What if you embraced the Stoic idea that true wealth is wanting what you have, not having what you want? What areas of your life could benefit from this shift in perspective? We encourage you to pick up a copy of the Daily Stoic and explore this ancient philosophy for yourself. You might be surprised at how relevant and transformative it can be.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss any of our updates. Also, if you think this video could help others, please share it with them. Thanks for watching and for your support.